Hi, I'm here today to share some advice on how to handle some of the key issues you may face on tax and pay as you earn as a sports club. Handling your club's tax might seem like a daunting task. However, hopefully, over the next few minutes or so, I can provide you with some key hints and tips to help you gain a better understanding of what's required and how to go about it in as simple and straightforward a way as possible. First off, let's cover off some of the issues around engaging someone to provide services to your club, whether that is on a paid basis or as a volunteer. Whilst managing a sports club, chances are that you'll need to engage with a number of different people to help run your club, from coaches to groundkeepers to those working in the clubhouse kitchen. If your club does engage anyone on a paid basis, rather than as a volunteer, it's important to establish their employment status before making any payment to them. Defining someone's employment status is about determining if somebody should be treated as an employee or as self-employed for the purposes of tax and national insurance contributions, which is always a key focus for HMRC. This focus is largely due to the fact that the Treasury receive less in national insurance contributions when compared to what they receive in respect of an employee. In addition, the Treasury receives tax deposits much quicker from an employee via the pay-as-you-earn system when compared to self-employed individuals who settle their taxes via the self-assessment system. So you can see why this is always a hot topic for HMRC. Employment status is not a choice, and there is a common misconception that it is a choice. Whether or not somebody is an employee or genuinely self-employed is determined by the roles and responsibilities of an individual and the services they provide, and it is not due to the contractual arrangement in place. HMRC will always look through the contractual arrangement as it is not always reflected of the services provided. Generally, if somebody looks and feels like an employee, then they should probably be taken on as an employee and paid via payroll under the pay-as-you-earn system. Getting this right is very important for the club. If a self-employed worker is later deemed to be an employee by HMRC, they will pursue the sports club for pay-as-you-earn and NIC, which should have been withheld and remitted to HMRC at the point of payment, which also includes the employer national insurance contribution, which is not due for self-employed individuals. It can be relatively complicated finding out exactly what a person's employment status is yourself, so HMRC have created the following online tool to assist you in finding out if you or an individual working for you on a specific engagement should be classed as employed or self-employed for tax purposes. It is also likely that you may engage a number of volunteers to assist you with the running of your club. When thinking about volunteers, there is also a third category which you need to be aware of in addition to employees or the self-employed, and this is the concept of a worker. A worker is an employment law concept, however, it has implications in respect of whether or not somebody is entitled to national minimum wage. It's important to establish whether each volunteer is truly a volunteer or alternatively a worker for the purposes of the national minimum wage. Most will be classed as volunteers and will not be entitled to or request any payment from your club. However, from time to time, because of the arrangements in place between that person and the club, they may be entitled to something extra, or you may want to provide them with more to reward them for all their hard work. Clubs also need to be careful that they do not inadvertently make a volunteer a worker by providing something above and beyond what a volunteer would expect to receive. For example, paying expenses above what could be deemed reasonable to be incurred, or by giving other benefits in kind such as in-demand tickets to an event, or even a monetary payment such as a bursary or an honorarium. This could flip the individual into the worker category, which then makes them eligible for national minimum wage. If it is not clear whether the volunteer is a worker, then it is necessary to establish their status. We recommend that you initially refer to the following HMRC guidance for volunteers at sports clubs.
Now, let's take a look at some of the other key tax issues relating to your club. First up, let's look at corporation tax. Whether your club is incorporated or not, if it trades and makes a profit, then it will be subject to UK corporation tax. You need to ensure that your club is registered with HMRC, files corporation tax returns and pays any corporation tax due. Generally, there are no exemptions to corporation tax unless your club is registered as a charity or as a community amateur sports club. One further exception is where your club is not seeking to make a profit and any surplus made is used for the benefit of the club members. This is generally exempt from tax under a concept called mutual trading. However, it is not straightforward and we would recommend professional advice is sought. It is also important to understand if your club is eligible to become part of the Community Amateur Sports Club scheme. A club can save significant amounts of money each year if it is registered under this scheme. The key benefits of being part of the scheme include mandatory rate relief on business rates of up to 80%, the ability to claim gift aid in the same way as charities do on qualifying donations from UK income tax payers, as well as some other exemptions from corporation tax on trading profits and income from property, where such income falls under thresholds set by HMRC. To qualify for the Community Amateur Sports Club scheme, your club will need to meet certain conditions: being open to the whole of the community, setting limits on costs of memberships, being organised on an amateur basis, and meeting specific requirements on participation and income generation. Next up, let's look at VAT. Your club will need to register for value-added tax if its taxable turnover exceeds £85,000 per annum. It is a common misconception that once a club has registered for VAT, it can reclaim all of the VAT on its purchases. This is not always true. Each case depends on specific facts and circumstances of the club and its activities. It is important to make sure you're aware of what you have to pay VAT on, the appropriate rate, and when you can claim VAT back. Generally, VAT paid on the goods and services which generate taxable income, for example, bar equipment, are fully recoverable, whereas those relating to exempt income, for example, sports equipment, will not be recoverable at all. If you are planning on spending substantial amounts of money to improve your facilities, for example, building a new clubhouse, you should appreciate that you will be unlikely to cover all of the VAT on the construction cost. It is therefore very important to understand what aspects of the projects you can claim VAT back on, as this will make a big difference to the final cost. The potential VAT cost should be factored in at the beginning of any project, and it should be made clear where a club is applying for a grant to assist with the project. It is worth seeking professional advice in this instance to ensure that the club is planning appropriately. I hope some of those areas have provided guidance on what you can do to ensure that you are managing your club's tax and PAYE in efficient a way as possible. Well done again on volunteering and playing such a key role in keeping your sports club going and hopefully thriving in the future.